Welcome to Time Out with Kim Possible.
Hello, and thank you for taking time out with Kim Possible. Today, we're going to discuss gestational diabetes. Now, gestational diabetes is something that can affect any pregnancy, any woman, but it's more likely to happen in overweight women, women with a family history of diabetes, or have had a pregnancy previously affected with diabetes. Now, I had previous pregnancies, quite a few, and never had gestational diabetes. I'm not obese, and I don't have any family history, so I was quite shocked and very, very disheartened, to say the least, when I found out that I did have it after failing my 1 hour. My doctor was very optimistic about me passing the 3, so I wasn't that worried, because he was like, a lot of people fail, blah, 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 you don't fit the bill, you're fine. And so when I found that I had it, I was really just in shock, and just the thought of having something wrong with me, something that could affect my children inside me, my twins, was just devastating. So learning more about it freaked me out in some ways and helped me in others. Knowledge is power, but sometimes you can get too into something and really just make things worse on yourself. So you want to just try to not overread. Ask your doctor the questions rather than Google. That's what I say you should do. Or talk to people who've been through it, like a friend or a relative who had gestational diabetes, who can help you out, rather than read all the scary info. Because me thinking about complications with the baby, or me getting diabetes later in life because of it, and the thought of pricking my fingers, I said, I can't do that, I won't do it. I cried, and I fell apart for a little bit there. And to read my blog, I was not a happy camper. And it's just one of those complications that can happen in any pregnancy, more so in a multiple pregnancy. And that's the one that I got. And so I had to deal with it. And it wasn't as horrible as I predicted. I wasn't dying. The diet was very difficult. Trying to learn how to keep my numbers low. It was like watching the stock market go up and down. I mean, between that and testing for something called ketones in my urine, you have a good amount of carbs, your ketones are low or gone, you don't have any, which is good, because high ketones, they say, can hurt the baby. So if you have the good amount of carbs, you keep those away, but then your blood sugar's higher. So it's like a catch-22. It seemed like a balancing act of trying to get both down. And so when my blood sugars were halfway decent, my ketones were way up, and I was freaking out, thinking I'm going to have retarded children, or they're going to become obese, and something's going to be wrong with them. And I was just devastated about that thought. But again, I was reading too much. My doctor totally calmed me down about it. It's extremely common, so if you're out there and you learned you have gestational diabetes, you are not alone. You have a friend here and millions of others in the world. You are not by yourself by a long shot. What you have to do is you have to listen to your doctor. He'll probably do blood work on you, refer you to a dietitian and an endocrinologist. And the endocrinologist will see you and take the blood on you and walk you through things and have you fill out your chart, but also the dietitian will go over the chart with you. He might have you email him the chart every week or so. He'll come in every few weeks. I mean, it's a scheduling act of appointments and co-pays, which was not fun for us because I have other children, and money was tight and is tight, so the co-pays added up, and things were, it made things harder, but it wasn't as horrible as I predicted. I was able to prick myself. I did that 6 times a day, and with the daughter petrified of blood, hiding that was the hardest thing to do when you're living with somebody who's very nosy to boot. They give you a little kit, all right, to show you how you have to do it, and I'm going to show you myself in the next part of this gestational diabetes segment. And all you have to do is do that and test it. It's very minimal. It's not so painful as I thought. And if your numbers can be controlled by your dietitian's help, then the endocrinologist will let you go as is and just keep watching your numbers and have you chart them down and what you're eating. But if you happen to keep your numbers high, like my fasting number for the morning was still high, which was baffling to me because it didn't matter what I had the night before, it just was still always over that mark of the 90 and under that he wanted. So I probably could have used a little insulin there, but he happened to have been sick and canceled like the last 3 appointments before I delivered, so I wasn't able to see him, and they didn't obviously take me seriously enough to give me anybody else to talk to. And my numbers from the dietitian's point of view, were still not bad, and they were okay, but I might have been able for that fasting number to use a little bit of insulin. But one thing I said to myself, I was not going to take insulin, no way, I'm not doing that, I'm not going to have that. And then towards the end when he was saying, if you have a little bit of insulin, you can actually get away with eating a few more of the foods that you might like, because the diet is rough. And I was like, I was thinking maybe, but you know what? It doesn't always come down to insulin, and if it does, it's not the worst thing in the world. I had a lot of people talking me down, calming me about the issue, because I was so afraid of the insulin thing. And, again, you're not alone. And so hopefully diet can control it. In a nice amount of cases, it definitely works, the diet. And you might be a little confused as I was, because I didn't realize what foods had sugar in them. I thought sugar meant Fun Dip and Coca-Cola and high fruit juices, high calorie fruit juices, and Twizzlers and cupcakes. And I didn't know like bread and pasta, because who thinks it's not sweet? I'm thinking sugar, sweetness, right? Who would think that breads and pastas and things like that would have so much sugar? So much more sugar than the things that we think are so heavy in sugar. So it's really like you never really label bread until you have gestational diabetes and you're sitting there at the supermarket looking at carb counts and sugar grams. Anything we normally look at when we're trying to watch our weight or lose some weight, the only thing I've ever looked at personally was the calories and sometimes the fat. That was about it. Never the other ones. So the other things that are, the things that are important in dieting are not the things that are important in gestational diabetes. You would think so, but one has nothing to do with the other. And it's not about losing weight, it's about lowering sugars. So what you have to do is modify your diets. Change your white breads to wheat breads. Some people can get away with it, some people can't. I could get away with the wheat bread, low-carb wheat bread, and it's not bad, in the afternoons and the evenings, but I couldn't have it for breakfast for some reason. You fine-tune your chart, what you write down and see your numbers, and you talk to the dietitian, and they tweak it as needed and say what works for you, what doesn't. See, I never have eggs in the morning. My husband would bring me home a muffin and a bagel or a roll, and that was now out. And at dinner, 90% of the time, we'd have something with pasta, and that was out, okay? So it was like everything, my whole world was based around food-wise was just like, so actually it's a balance of mixing your carbs, because you need carbs. To be healthy, you need carbs and to have energy, but you need to balance it with proteins. So it's very confusing. The dietitian will explain it to you, but certain examples of mixing proteins and carbs would be having your eggs and your bacon and try a slice or maybe a half a slice of toast. And instead of having 3 meals a day, like sometimes I would even skip lunch, that's a big no-no. When you have gestational diabetes, you want to have spaced out meals. Okay, smaller portions, more frequent meals, or you need a snack in between those meals. I never snacked in between meals. I always snacked at nighttime, which was like a big bowl of ice cream or a brownie. I tried the sugar-free ice cream. I was able to get away with it in small portions, and it honestly tastes really, really good. You'd be surprised. So honestly, Breyers does make some good ice cream, even sugar-free. All right, so check that out. Don't be afraid to buy it, because Mama Pasta says it's good. I actually still buy it from time to time. And mixing eggs, which is protein, meats, which are protein, along with like a vegetable and a small portion of mashed potatoes, really small, will even things out. But if you just were to have, say, the mashed potato and like, you know, a piece of, you know, a bread with a couple pieces of carrots, that's not going to do it. You need to level it out, like red meat, chicken, fish. All those things are really good. Not necessarily things that on a diet you'd want to maybe eat, but, well, fish, yeah. But I mean, like, you know, the meats. All the meats are good for you. All the breads and grains are bad. You can buy the low carb, you can buy the wheat. I noticed the pasta, the wheat pasta, didn't seem to have many fewer carbs and sugars than the regular, so I just forewent my pasta for a while. It doesn't last forever. It seems like forever, but it's only a couple of months that you have to deal with it, 2-3 months. Deal with the diet, and be careful. You want your starch, but with your protein, and you want to balance that out at dinner time. Say your starch would be a starchy vegetable like carrots, but you wouldn't want to mix that with like rice. And actually, white rice is like the worst thing you can have. If you had to have any rice, do brown rice. But you'll see, because everybody's different what they can or can't get away with. But some people can get away with the brownie, my dietitian said at night, and it wouldn't affect their morning number. And I personally could not. I got away sometimes with the sugar-free ice cream. I also didn't realize fruits, you know. I know fruits are sweet, but I didn't think that since it's not man-made that there was any real sugar in it. So I was eating, sometimes my husband would bring me home a bowl of fruit, for me, and I'd eat it, and my number would be through the roof. So after 2 times of that, I realized, hey, this is not good. Talk to them. They go, no, that's way, way, way too much sugar. You don't even realize it. A couple of fruits are okay for you, but you really have to have a small little portion, and you have to space out those meals. Don't have 3 big meals a day, because your numbers are going to be high. Have some eggs and a 4-grain sausage, and you know, I even had the Carnation Instant Breakfast, sugar-free. They say, oh, the non-sugar substitutes aren't good for you. My numbers always stayed low with it, so you can tweak around. And it actually tasted pretty good, the no sugar added kind. I'd have that with the protein, and that was fun, but I couldn't have any bagel or anything. In the afternoon, I could have a tuna sandwich on wheat bread. That worked out for me. But in between, you'd have a snack. If I was going to have an apple or something, that worked in between, like lunch and dinner, but not breakfast and lunch. Don't ask me why. These are just things that you're going to work out and figure out for yourself what happens and what doesn't. And don't freak out and get alarmed that this higher number is, you're looking at it and you're panicking. What can I do about it? You know, and you're scared because you're looking at it and you know that this isn't normal, and you're trying your hardest. And so when that number, you're waiting for the number to appear, it's very stressful because you don't even know what it's going to be. So what you want to do is you want to take a deep breath, calm down, and know that your baby or babies are going to be safe as long as you're not skyrocketing to Pancake Cottage, eating a full stack of pancakes and ignoring your diet completely and not listening to your doctor's instructions. As long as you listen to him and you follow your diet as carefully as possible, you'll be okay and your babies will be okay. Don't scare yourself with internet searches. Do eat small portions. Do have healthy snacks. Know that it is not a forever thing, and don't fear about getting diabetes later down the road. I don't believe for a minute that a baby is what causes diabetes to come on later on down the line. I think if you're going to get it, you're predisposition to get it, and maybe it might be a precursor, maybe not, maybe it has nothing to do with anything. But I don't think that pregnancy and that baby is what caused you to get diabetes later on. What you got to do after you have the baby is, you don't have to stick, because remember, I had it, and afterwards I was gung-ho to have my cheesecake. But you just see things a little bit differently afterwards. You watch things a little bit more, so don't overindulge like you used to. Just take some precautions, because obesity is a definite risk factor for diabetes. So if you have a high risk factor of of obesity, you're giving yourself more of a chance of having it down the line. So eating a lot of sugar and fatty foods will make you obese. So basically it's more of the line of how you live your life. So if you do have it and you are overweight, maybe that'll help motivate you after the pregnancy. not during, never diet during a pregnancy, to lose some weight, get yourself on a healthier track, exercise. You'll notice that if you exercise, your numbers will be lower, so you do want to take those walks, ride the treadmill, do some light exercises during your pregnancy, safe exercises, ask your doctor if you're not used to an exercise regimen, and just don't freak out. Stress affects your babies, and it's no good for your health. So just take care of yourself, and you will be just fine. And that is gestational diabetes, part 1, and part 2 I'll show you how to do the finger prick and how to test at home. Take care.